Meanwhile, let's take a look at the U.S. A new Wall Street Journal poll reveals 52% of Americans do not think President Biden will run for re-election in 2024. 57% disapprove of his job performance. The pandemic, record high inflation, and Russia's deadly war in Ukraine, all potential factors in Biden's bad poll numbers. Dagen, these numbers continue to drop. We're talking about a 37% approval rating here, Dagen.
Right. I'm surprised that the number of Americans who don't think Biden will run again isn't significantly higher. This president from day one has been weak and weaker as the months have rolled on in appearance, in word, and in deed. He is not up to the task of leading the United States on the world stage. He has sent Vice President Kamala Harris overseas recently, and she can't string a sentence together that is coherent. So I don't know how anybody could think that this man would run for president again.
Well, it's pretty extraordinary, Tammy, the way the United States and the world, by the way, has changed in just 13 months, isn't it?
It is. And look, he shouldn't have run in the first place. If there was logic and reason involved in what the Democrats were doing, this never should have happened. We now know for sure why he was based in the basement. We know why he was never allowed out, because this would have become apparent. And I think these new polls are an example more of a no confidence vote. And it's couched as whether you think he'll run again. It really is about a statement that he shouldn't. The Democrat numbers in that poll, by the way, 41% said that they think Biden will not run again. In other words, they don't think he should. 32 said that they think he wouldn't, and 26 were unsure. The Democrats are in disarray, and this is one of the parts of this, Maria, is that they were told something about Joe Biden they know now was a lie. It's not like it was a wobbly version of the truth. They were lied about Joe Biden's competency, and now with the impact on the country and the world by reversing Trump's policies, they're realizing they were lied to about him. So there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on with the Democrats and Americans in general, revealing what many feel are a fraud about how the country is run, how that election was applied, and what the Democrats were willing to do by hiding their candidate.
I don't know if they were lied to, though.
Democrats are afraid.
Tammy, I don't know if the people who voted for Joe Biden were lied to. If you go back and listen to what Biden said on the campaign trail, he was really clear about what he was going to do to our energy sector, that he was going to stop drilling, that he was going to transition away from the oil industry. And people chose this weakling because they didn't like mean tweets. And that certainly sent a message to tyrants around the globe that, oh, you can't handle some tough language, but you choose somebody who wants to reduce the United States' power on the world stage. That's what we got. Somebody who knows how to hide.
And look what's happening. Look what's happening across the world as a result of this leadership.
Right.
You got Russia invading Ukraine. You got the Iranians striking into Iraq. You've got the CCP watching it all. You've got unrest across the world. The Saudis talking to China, as you mentioned yesterday. A truly new world order being created here as a result of weak leadership in the United States. Dagen.
Absolutely. That's why you've seen this has been China and even Saudi Arabia and Russia and India. They're playing the long game. And so why do you see these nations creating a new access or strengthening access so quickly? Well, it's because they've been planning to do this all along. They were just waiting for this weakling to be in office.
Can I just add one thing?
Well, the Afghanistan botched withdrawal was certainly an invitation, Tammy.
Yeah, just add one thing, in that when Biden was having all this hard talk about energy, there was a wink and a nod when it came to Democrat leadership saying he was the moderate one. In other words, he has to say these things to mollify the far left. And that is what Democrats now are going through, is that they felt really like they were taken for schmucks.